I want to start this one with your eyes closed and listen. A small string instrument starts up, bright, plucked, a little nasal, a phrase that loops back on itself. Hands come in, clapping a pattern, and then a single voice climbs up over the top and gives us a line, long held almost like a call thrown across a field. And then the voice stops. The singing just stops. But the strings and the hands keep going, and into that space that, held open, the singing has stopped space, one person steps into the middle of the circle and dances alone. Everyone else is watching and waiting. But now the gear changes. The lead voice throws out a short line, and the whole circle throws it straight back. Call and response, another call, another response. Faster now, rolling, and the dancing does not wait for the singing to finish anymore. It happens on top of it. 2 people, 3 people, moving at once. The circle isn't watching, it is all happening at the same time. The same circle, the same people, and the same night, but 2 completely different ways of running the music. The first one made you wait, the second will not allow you to. And the gap between these 2 settings is the whole subject of today's episode. I'm Maicão, and this is Samba Stories, a show about Samba enredo and the Carnival of Rio de Janeiro, made for people who love the spectacle but were never told what sits underneath it. And, as usual, the following important disclaimer. Whatever I say in this episode is based on my current understanding and knowledge. That understanding may change as I learn more. I may also miss an essential piece of information or draw a false connection. This podcast is an ongoing effort to learn and to understand, and it is not the final word. Now, last episode we built a circle. We went back to Bahia, to the Recôncavo, and watched how enslaved Africans and their descendants made a thing called Samba de roda, Samba of the circle. And they did so out of almost nothing. Today we are staying in that exact circle. However, we are going to lean in close and take the lid off, because that circle is not one simple thing playing one simple beat. Here is what I did not tell you last time. Samba de roda runs in more than one mode. Picture a machine with 2 gears, 2 different ways of organizing the same parts. The scholars and the practitioners have names for the 2 big ones, 2 main genres, Samba Chula and Samba Corrido. And the difference between them, at bottom, is almost embarrassingly simple. It comes down to a single relationship, the one between the singing and the dancing. And before I go an inch further, I have to plant the flag, because this is exactly where outsiders trip. Chula is not an old or primitive version, and Corrido is not the new advanced one. Neither is pure, neither is simpler. That latter does not exist here. These are 2 engineering solutions to the same problem. How you organize voices, hands, feet, and strings inside a circle. And both are fully grown, both sophisticated, and both alive to this day. I'm going to take them one at a time, but hold them side by side in your head, like 2 settings on one machine. And here is how I want you to listen, the whole way through. 4 questions. 1. Who has the floor right now? The singer, the dancer, the chorus, or the instruments? Is the circle waiting? Or is it rolling? Is the energy being built by suspense or by pile-up? And does the dance answer after the song, or does it happen during it? And keep those 4 running. They are the difference between hearing noise and hearing the actual machine at work. Let us start with Chula. And let us start with the strangest thing about it. The thing that makes no sense until suddenly it does. Chula will make you wait. In a music built for dancing, the singing and the dancing mostly do not happen at the same time. Why on earth would you build it that way? Now, first there is the word, Chula. It is the song verse, the line the lead singer cries out over the other instruments. The old name for that lead singer is a gritador de Chula, literally a shouter or a crier of Chula. The whole style takes its name from that cried verse, and the name carries a bruise. In Portuguese, Chula means something low, coarse, vulgar. And the story that gets told by the form's own masters, and by the scholars who have studied them, is that this was the word the powerful used, kind of dismissively, for the music the enslaved made in the cane fields. The people who made it kept the insult and wore it. The same move we kept seeing last episode, right? The thing that gets called worthless decides to be proud. I will be straight with you that the deep etymology here is the commonly told version, not a closed case. But the shape fits everything else we know so far. So here is the machinery of Chula. You have often two singers paired working together, trading or stacking their voices to carry that long, high, crying verse. The verse goes out, and while it is going out, the circle mostly holds. People listen, they appreciate. And what they are appreciating above all is the poetry. Chula puts enormous weight on the sung verse as a piece of language. The image, the turn of phrase, the craft of the line. The words are not filler you sit through until the dancing starts. They are a point. A great Chula singer is judged as much on the poetry they carry as on the voice that carries it. Then the sung verse ends, and that is the moment. The strings and the pandeiro and the hands keep their time rolling underneath. And into that instrumental space, a single dancer steps into the middle, one at a time. Everybody else is watching, waiting their turn. Which means the pause, the silence where the singing stopped. It is not really empty. It is not something to be considered a gap in the music. In Chula, the pause is the architecture. It is the room the dance lives in. The waiting is not downtime, it is part of the design. The form is built around taking turns. Sing, then dance, sing, then dance. And the suspense of that handoff is the whole feeling of the thing. If you want to actually hear this, the name to know is Mestre João do Boi. He was a sambador from a community called São Brás near Santo Amaro in the Recôncavo. A quilombo, a black community descendant from people who freed themselves or who were freed. And his nickname, do Boi or of the ox, tells you exactly who he was. He was a man who worked cattle, gathered shellfish if he could, farmed the land, and sang Chula the way his mother sang it while she washed the clothes when he was young. He used to say that almost all of the old Chula masters he had learned from were gone. But he was still there. He carried it for more than 65 years and sadly died in 2023 at 78. And this part is almost too much. He collapsed while performing at a festival in the middle of the Samba. When I point you to him, I'm pointing you towards recordings. But they are some of the clearest windows into Chula that actually exist. Now let's flip the switch, because there is also Samba Corrido. If Chula's puzzle was why would you make people wait, Corrido's one is the exact opposite. Corrido does not make you wait at all. It rolls, it overlaps, it all happens at once. So its danger is not boredom, its danger is chaos. Because how do you keep a thing where everything is going on at the same time from collapsing into an absolute mess? Well, here's how it runs. Instead of one long crying verse, you get short lines, a lead voice calls, and the whole circle answers. Call and response, call and response. Scholars call this responsorial, the back and forth, the dialogue between one voice and the group. The calls are short, so they come fast, but the answers come fast as well, and that builds this rolling continuous drive. How about the dancing? Well, the dancing does not wait, it happens during the singing, right on top of the call and response pattern. More than one person can be in the circle at once as well. The whole thing turns together, voices, hands, feet, all overlapping. Now, it would be very easy to hear that and decide Corrido is the loose one, the simple one, the party version. Don't do this. Corrido does not get rid of structure, it hides the structure inside of its momentum. The call and response is a tight rule. The timing of when the chorus comes back in is exact. The overlap only works because everyone knows precisely where the beat is and precisely when to answer. It feels free, but it is not loose. It is a different kind of discipline. the discipline of a thing that has to stay locked together while it moves really fast. Anyone who has played in a tight band knows the secret. Making it sound effortless and rolling is much harder than making it sound careful. And for this side, here is the good news. You can hear it live, right now, from one of its great living voices, Nega Duda. She's a sambadeira, a singer and a dancer out of Santo Amaro, so not too far from our Samba Chula icon. And she has spent decades as one of the matriarchs of Samba de roda, still performing and still leading her own group. Where João do Boi is a window into Chula, Nega Duda is a window into the rolling communal pool of the Corrido side. One quick caveat, real masters do not stay in one lane. A full night of Samba de roda moves between these modes, and so do the artists themselves. I am using these two as listening anchors, not as labels. But if you want to feel the difference I am describing, those are two extraordinary places to start. Right, we have talked about voices and dancing, but now let us open the engine room and look at what is actually making the sound, the instruments. And straight away, a warning. There is no single official lineup here. This, guys, is folk practice, not an orchestra with a fixed seating chart. And what is in the circle depends on the town, the family, the night, and who walked in carrying what exactly. So everything I am about to name is might be there, not a must be there. You'll usually have strings, a viola, which is a small double-strung guitar-like instrument with a bright ringing tone. And often as well a regular guitar, a violão. Maybe a cavaquinho, that little high-pitched four-string you might know from Rio Samba. You'll also have percussion, of course, the pandeiro, the Brazilian tambourine, doing a huge amount of the rhythmic heavy lifting. Often there will be an atabaque, a hand drum which is kind of comparable to but very different from a conga. Then there's a couple I love because they tell you the music came straight out of people's homes. A reco-reco and a chocalho, scrapers and shakers. And the prato e faca, that one is literally a dinner plate and a knife. You hold the plate and you scrape and tick the blade around its edge. It kind of puts out this sharp, precise and metallic pulse. Don't hear that as a gimmick though. The plate and knife is not a comedy instrument. In the right hands, it is actually a serious rhythmic voice, holding a pattern as exact as any drum. Somebody simply worked out that the kitchen had a percussion instrument in it, or a section, and underneath all of it, all of these instruments, the oldest of all, are hands, clapping, the palmas. But if I have to pick one instrument that is the soul of this genre, it is a specific viola, the viola Machete, a small one particularly tied to the older music there. And here is what it does beyond just playing the chords. The Machete does not simply lay harmony under the singers, it actually drives. It steers the rhythm and the phrasing. It is part of what tells the dancer's feet what to do, and when. The researchers who have studied it talk about the tons de machete, the machete tunings. Particular ways of tuning and playing the instrument that are not written down anywhere. They live in the hands of the players who actually know how to do it. And that is the thing about the machete, I keep circling back to it. The instrument is endangered. Fewer makers, fewer players, and you can rebuild the physical object, sure. It is wooden strings, you can carve a new one. But the wooden strings were never the hard part. Safeguarding the machete is not only about saving an object, it is about saving the way of making time in the roda, the knowledge of how this one instrument makes a circle move. And that knowledge only exists inside of people. Lose the players, and you can still have the instrument, yet still you could have lost the entire thing altogether. Okay, two more things before we go. And they are the things that make this a living tradition instead of a museum case. How the bodies move, and how the whole thing gets handed down. First, the dance. Last episode I told you about the umbigada, a navel toward navel invitation gesture. The little handshake that says, "Hey, you're in, I'm out, take my place please." That gesture lives right here in the roda. It is how the turn gets passed from one dancer to the next. And the footwork has a name, miudinho. It means something like the tiny one. And that is exactly what it is. They're small, quick steps, low to the ground, most of the action coming from the waist down, feet barely leaving the earth. It is not the big, high-kicking, feathers and spotlight samba you might have seen in Rio, or even Sao Paulo. And here is a rule for this whole series. Do not run that Rio image backwards onto this. The flashy solo samba of the samba drum comes much later. And it is a different animal altogether. What is happening in the roda is closer, quieter. It feels older. A conversation in the feet, not a performance for a camera. The circle has manners. You do not just barge into the middle. Entry is regulated by the gesture, by who is senior, and by the moment. Sometimes the most important thing you do in the roda is wait your turn, and wait it well. Who dances when and how has varied by town and by era, including along lines of gender. So I will resist handing you one neat rule, because the people who actually hold this would tell you it depends entirely on where you are standing. So how does a thing like this survive? Well, not by accident. In Santo Amaro, João do Boi's territory, there is a place called the Casa do Samba, the home of an association of samba de roda singers and dancers that came together in 2005, right as the form was being recognized as heritage. And it does the unglamorous work. Workshops where younger people learn to build the viola Machete, but also how to play it. Where the dance and the songs get taught and recorded and passed down. That is what safeguarding actually looks like on the ground. It's not a certificate on a wall, or a room where an old player puts the instrument in the young pair of hands. That is it. And there is a real argument running underneath all of this, and it is a good one. When the old instruments or the old makers get scarce, groups can substitute. They use what they can, or they use what they can get at least. Is that a loss? Well, mostly no. Adaptation is how living things stay alive. A roda that swaps an instrument to keep going is still a roda. The danger is not change, it is flattening, because if one standardized, recorded, correct version starts replacing all the messy local ones, the tradition can lose its own internal variety, which is half of what made it rich. Which gives you perhaps the best working definition of tradition that I know. Tradition is not the refusal to change. It is the argument over which changes still let the practice recognize itself. And so there you have it, Chula and Corrido, suspense and momentum. Two sides to the same coin. The pause that is architecture, and the structure hidden inside of the role. And here is the payoff I most want you to keep. The fact that Samba de roda has both of these is not a sign of confusion, nor is it one of one being chased out or being on its way out. It is a sign of range, a tradition that can do suspense and momentum both, that can make a circle wait and make a circle roll, that can hold one dancer in a pool of silence and then dissolve into everybody all at once. That is not two things fighting. It is one tradition that can do more than one thing. The difference is the strength, and now you have the tools to hear it. Next time you find a recording of this, run the 4 questions. Who has the floor? Is it waiting or rolling? Is there suspense or is it being piled up? Dance, after the song or during? You'll catch the gears changing. But remember how I keep telling you this story does not stay in Bahia, because at the end of the 19th century, and well into the 20th, a great many of these people, the sambadores, the families who carried this music in their hands and their feet and even their hearts, well, they got on boats and trains and went south, looking for work, to Rio de Janeiro. And they brought a circle with them. And what happened when this Bahian music hit the huge, changing, contested city, a city that already has its own loud, strange carnival and music scene going on? Well, long before any samba school existed. That is where we are headed next. Because before samba could even marry Rio's carnival, we have to see what Rio's carnival already was. And it is a rowdier story, way rowdier than you would imagine. So the next time you hear a samba circle, really hear it. Listen for the gear. Is it making you wait or is it making you move? Both answers are the tradition working exactly as designed. And one last thing before I go. I would have loved to play you a taste of all of this myself. A little of João do Boy and a little of Nega Duda under my voice. The music licensing would not let me, however. So I have done the next best thing. The links are in the description, pointing you to the recordings I have been sending you to the whole way through. Go and hear the real thing. I am Maicão, and this has been Samba Stories. Thank you for listening. If you got something out of it, a like and a comment help these stories reach more people. And please do subscribe, because next time we go down south to Rio before Samba ever got there. Até logo.